and I can hear behind you Mike Costello in Las Vegas the words of a press conference by the sound of it. Amir Khan against Marcos Maidana, of course, late on Saturday night, early hours of Sunday morning, which you can hear. But Mike, what's happening in Vegas at the moment?
Well, we're just a few feet from the stage where the press conference is taking place. It's just underway, and speaking at the moment is the man that we were talking to about an hour or so ago in his capacity as the head of Golden Boy Promotions. It's Oscar De La Hoya. There are about 20 people or so on the main stage, which we're looking out onto. To the left of the dais as we look on is Amir Khan in a smart dark suit and an open-necked navy blue shirt. To the right of the dais on the other side as we look is Marcos Maidana, his challenger for the WBA title on Saturday night. He's wearing a black baseball cap and a red tracksuit top, and now one of the officials from the Nevada State Athletic Commission has just taken up his position on the dais in the centre, and they're talking to hordes of cameramen, reporters and photographers, and those numbers give us a sense that this fight is at last starting to take hold here in the States as we rumble on through fight week. Now, as I look out to the right of Amir Khan, sitting there is his coach Freddie Roach, who's been so important in the rebuilding of Amir Khan's career. And a couple of months ago I was in the Philippines making a documentary about Manny Pacquiao. Freddie Roach was there, of course, because that's where Pacquiao begins the build-up to his big fights, and Amir Khan followed Freddie Roach there to begin training for this fight and was actually sparring with Manny Pacquiao. It was very early on in Khan's build-up to this particular fight, whereas Pacquiao was well into his training camp for the fight against Antonio Margarito, which he went on to win. And yet Freddie Roach has been telling me that Khan fared very well in the sparring between them.
From the first time they sparred to the last time they sparred is a big difference, and Amir got the best of Manny more times than not this time. Manny had his moments, of course, but Amir was usually the dominator in those spar matches. Was Manny maybe a little distracted here and there with Congress and so forth? Possibly, but the thing is, it was what it was, and Amir was getting the best of him, and by the time they get to where people want to match him up, I think Manny will be retired and Amir will go right through the rest. Because I do feel that Mayweather won't fight Manny. If he won't fight Manny, then we have another guy out here, Amir. And you know what? I think a lot of excuses are going to start coming our way.
You think so? He'll start one day avoiding Amir Khan.
He'll want blood test. He'll want Alex Ariza's fighters are on steroids, or Freddie Roach's fighters are on steroids. You watch. It will happen. But my fighters are clean, and they just work hard, and they're very talented guys. And Amir he has a lot of assets, a lot of ability, and he knows when and how and where to use that, and he's getting better every day.
Would you say that the occasion here, Freddie, is as important as the opponent because of what it means to Amir, showcasing himself in Vegas, in the States, and of course what comes after if he puts on a good performance?
It does, and the thing is, I just trying to keep him as calm as possible about that, and don't get overwhelmed, and don't fight for the crowd. Fight for yourself. Fight your game plan, and I'm drilling that slowly into his head as we go, as we get closer and closer to the fight. Now that we're here in Vegas, and he knows he's in the spotlight now, and there's nothing like a Vegas fight. And being the headliner, he'll rise to the occasion, and this is going to be a good fight for him. Very tough opponent, great puncher, but he won't lose a round in this fight. He will not lose a round. He knows the game plan. He's a much better boxer than his opponent. We've analyzed this guy's mistakes, and we know how to take advantage of them, when and where and how. And I can't wait to watch the performance. As a fan, I'm really excited to watch this one.
Well, that was Freddie Roach talking to Mike Costello. Listening to him, he's very confident, isn't he, about he's really talking up Amir, isn't he?
He's talking up Amir, but Mike, I'm convinced that Freddie said in the summer when Maidana's name first came up that he didn't want to fight Maidana. And one question I want to ask you, because I'm sure you found out and got talking over there to different people. It seems to me that this fight is a classic example of the TV company HBO, who paid a bulk of the money, forcing it to happen.
I think that's true, and we've just been hearing actually, Steve, from the head of boxing at HBO television, Kerry Davis, talking about how important this fight is, and also how important this division is to the future of boxing in the United States. It's a red-hot division. If Amir Khan is to win on Saturday night, that sets up a confrontation with the winner of another unification fight, which is happening in January between Timothy Bradley and Devon Alexander.
Oh, I think that was the sound of Mike disappearing into the ether. But you can finish his sentence for him, Steve, I'm sure.
They're fighting. Devon Alexander and Tim Bradley are fighting. A couple of titles up for grabs there. The winner of that fight will be poised perfectly to fight the winner of this fight, because Maidana is something called an interim WBA championship. He has a portion of Amir's belt. Don't ask me how, Ellie. That's just the way it works. So this is in some ways a type of a quasi-unification fight. It's also a great fight on paper, and it'll be a great fight on the night. And then Bradley fights Alexander, and the winner of those two, I'm just finishing your sentence, Mike, the winner of those two fights. Did you go away then, Mike, or was it my imagination?
Somebody pull the plug on you because you were being too loud.
I just sensed you were getting a bit bored and jumped.
Tell us about Marcos Maidana. It says here that he reckons he's boxing his answer to Carlos Tevez, which I can't quite imagine somehow.
I think he's talking in terms of his work ethic, and he's come from a very lowly background, and he's worked his way up, and does it without any kind of finesse, does it without any kind of any fanfare, just gets on with his job. I think that's what he's been talking about. But he comes from a region in Argentina which has produced a number of good fighters down the years. It's called Santa Fe, which is the second biggest region in the country, other than Buenos Aires, the capital, and it was where Carlos Monzon, the legendary middleweight champion of the 70s and beyond, came from, and he says that he gets quite angry when people here say that the only way he can win this fight is by knocking Amir Khan out. He points to one or two other fights in his career where he's dominated them with his boxing skills. But we were at a workout yesterday, the one I was talking about, where we all had to leave when we got news of Vladimir Klitschko against Derek Chisora being off. But we did watch the two men eventually in separate sessions on the pads with their trainers, and the difference in speed was like night and day. It was so marked, and Amir Khan is just getting so much quicker and so much more powerful. And he was working on various moves with Freddie Roach, which Roach has been perfecting down the years with Manny Pacquiao. And one of those significant moves was that every time Amir Khan threw a punch or a combination of punches, he would move very quickly to his left or his right in a kind of a 180-degree arc. And that meant that when his opponents get set to throw punches back, Amir Khan will be to their left or their right, so they won't be able to get off on a straight shot, which is exactly the problem Ricky Hatton had in trying to make contact with Manny Pacquiao here 18 months or so ago.
So is it going to be a long fight, do you reckon, Steve?
Well, I've got to tell you, if Amir Khan decides he wants to come down close and shorten his shots and try and forget some of the stuff that Freddie's been teaching him for the last 26 months, then I can see Khan finishing it quickly, because this guy has been over and it would be a shootout. But that would be one of the most foolish things to happen in a Vegas ring. But foolish things do happen in Vegas rings. We've seen Ricky Hatton, who's a better boxer than what he given credit for, fight twice in Las Vegas and in losing fights where he didn't for 1 second use his brain. I see it being a long fight. Perhaps Amir Khan smashes Maidana, hits him from distance like Freddie says, and doesn't get hit, and forces a stoppage in the last 2 or 3 rounds, or wins comfortably on point. But that's what they've
been talking about, Steve. He's not going to run from this guy. No. He is going to command the centre ring. He's going to keep it at mid-range and long range. He's not going to take too many chances here. But movement and speed are going to be absolutely key. And he doesn't want to be backed up onto the ropes where Maidana can then really make his strength tell.
Well, don't forget you can hear that fight live on 5 Live in the early hours of Sunday morning around about 4 o'clock. Mike Costello and the team are in Las Vegas.